Hello everyone, this is Mason Beam with the Wise News Network, and today we've got part 3 of the Goodies Dash series. I'm glad to see those who've been enjoying it so far returning, and if you are enjoying it, be sure to drop down below and give us a like. Now today we've got Michael Powell, Barry Owen, and Tommy Chapman up on the roster for you. But before I let you go on to the video, I've got to let you know that if you want to continue seeing our website and spaces ad-free, then we would appreciate it if you would go to our website, wisenewsnetwork.com, and check out some of our lovely new merchandise. Without further ado, on to the video.
Thank you for this time. You should go ahead and get you something to eat instead of listening at me. It's interesting how this deal started. Bill Ellis was racing NASCAR, had a drag strip. He decided he'd build a road course up there. Well, I was one of the guys that just hung around the shop. I was a revenuer, and I guess I was the most hated guy in the county. So they got ready to race, and Bill had a car, and he said, I want you to drive this car. I said, I have never driven a round track car. I said, I've been big in drag racing and stuff like that, but I hadn't raced in 10 years. Make a long story short, we got to the racetrack. He had some of these sports car drivers there. And anyway, we all went out and made a couple of laps around the racetrack. You changed gears 4 times on that race car. Came back, I started sucking, and the sports car guy was right in front of me, and we went down into turn 1, and his brake lights came on. I thought, what in the hell is going here? He's going to stop on the track. Anyway, we made another turn, his brake lights came on, and I couldn't put up with that, so about the 3rd lap, I put him out. And Bill didn't like that. He threw a caution flag and said, those guys are beasts in here, don't rough them up. I said, okay. So anyway, make a long story short, I had to hit the wall, tore a tire up, and I built a car and started racing. And Bill Ellis owned all the cars because he put the roll cage on them. And I don't know why, but when I went to get a Pinto, all the damn wrecked Pintos were gone. The only thing that was left was a Vega. And it had the motor sitting up under the dash on it. So got it home, got the fenders off, got the frame straightened out, stuff like that. And we raced, and thank God Richard Mash wasn't involved that first year. Son of us got to win races. But J.B. Raines won the first 5, and I won the last 5. So we had race cars, and we didn't know what to do. And 72 came along. Well, Bill's not going to race us. Where are we going to race these cars? So we ended up sitting at a service station. We formed Baby Grand National Racing. And we left there, we didn't have any paperwork, no membership, or anything else like that. And I went to a lawyer and I said, we formed a racing organization. He said, well, you got to do this and do that. I said, oh, no, we just want to race somewhere. So anyway, we got it incorporated and thought we were doing the right thing. So anyway, none of us were anybody. I was just a revenue, and these other guys were just normal people like me. We all looked up to these NASCAR race car drivers, Jim Pascal, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, and those kind of guys. You know, they were the guys. So anyway, they were going to let us race on Saturday as a premature to the race for the Cup cars, say, on Sunday. So I got ready to go out for my warm-up lap, or qualifying lap. Bill Ellis told me, he said, don't let off the son of a bitch, just hold it wide open. I said, okay. So I stayed on the track for 2 laps and pulled in. I wanted to see what my qualifying time was. It didn't show. I thought, my God, I was so bad it didn't even show how fast I went. So I went over to Bill. I said, why didn't he show the qualifying time? He said, they are raising hell. You're 4 miles an hour faster than the Cup cars. I said, what? We're going fast. Because I realized how fast I was riding in, because I'd been watching them ride. But anyway, this is a joy to me. I'm 83 years old. I can hardly walk. God has blessed me. God has blessed this organization. I look around and think about how many people, you know, the girls don't look like they did in 1972. And I guess some of us don't look like we did in 1972. But the biggest problem with this organization was NASCAR. We sold out to NASCAR in 1975. We thought, man, we hit the big time. We're going to be on TV. We're going to go to race at Daytona, something like that. I ran the 75 race, and I was so broke that I couldn't even afford to go to the races anymore. So that little meeting up there in North Wilkesboro. And the reason it survived, and I've thought about this a long time, the reason the dash survived was Bill was smart enough to put a revenue in a race car and let all the moonshiners come to North Wilkesboro Speedway and see if they could kill him on Saturday night. And they damn sure did sometimes. But anyway, you would see those moonshine guys walk by and give somebody a couple of $100. And I thought, a couple of $100? I don't have $300 or $400 in this whole car. The most expensive thing I had was I got the rims widened on it. We ran the same shocks and springs and engines. Never thought of having a built engine. Then Richard Mash came along and all that changed. So from then on, whoever was driving his car was going to be the champion. And I guess I held on for a long time. But God bless every one of you. We're now part of the history. And I'm an old man in the twilight years of a mediocre career. Y'all have a nice day.
We're here with Mike Powell, which is very instrumental in the Dash Series over the years. And Mike, can you tell us a little bit of history of your involvement in the series?
When I was young, as in 12, 13, 14, I helped a couple different guys on those cars. And then when I began driving a short track car, I was still in high school and I was 16. But then shortly after high school, was very, very, very fortunate to drive a dash car. That began in 1982. It was just one race. Then we never ran the entire schedule. Essentially, I ran 1983 and 84 and 85. We were fortunate to win a couple of those races. I was very, very fortunate to drive for a construction company and a great man named Jerry Harris. Also was so, I'm very careful to not sound boastful. Looking back on it, just really tickled. We had Oldsmobile factory backing for that car, and I guess that was a really big deal as I reflect on it, to have a factory-backed car and a real good effort. Again, it wasn't a championship effort in the sense that it ran 10 races each year, and to win a few. For me personally, looking back on it, it's almost like, wow, did we really do that? What was so incredibly epic to me was the Dash Series at that time, running the speedways. Of course, viewers are probably aware of Charlotte, Darlington, Rockingham, Martinsville, Atlanta, North Wilkesboro. To get to run those type tracks, Daytona and the speedways, that was a really, really big deal for, I think, for the fans and the competitors. Those cars that ran the show on Saturday, I was always a fan of that. Those series going back to Grand American before us, and convertible series and things like that. You had some of the same drivers that ran at the top tier on Sunday would run on Saturday, and it's known now how many guys ran the Dash Series and then moved on. It was a really exciting time. Not only the machines and the people, there was a lot of energy and a lot of growth then, and I think when Busch Beer came in and sponsored the Sportsman Series, that sort of shifted the landscape a tiny bit for the Dash Series. I don't want to say took away some of the races, but anyhow, I'm a big fan of the other levels of racing aside from Cup level. We're huge fans of that, but the men and women in the machines as they approach that series, it can be an awful lot of really neat history, I think, and I was fortunate to be part of it with some great men, and it means an enormous amount to me. I didn't drive in NASCAR any after 1985, and I drive some historic cars now. That's history preservation more than anything. similar to the Warbird crowd. They commemorate, educate, and inspire. So more of that. It's not like life or death racing. Still really tickled to have been a part of it. And again, looking back, I don't want to sound corny, but I really can't believe we accomplished what we did. The competition then, it was fierce.
Yeah, in the 90s and mid-90s, late 90s, they were sending a lot of cars home, and it was amazing how many cars, especially like Daytona. And what was it like to go from a third-mile track to a super speedway?
It was kind of funny. I think about that sometimes. I think we were fortunate then that, let's say the Cup level guys, the transfer of craftsmanship, I hope it makes sense how I answer it. Those guys were really helpful. They knew that here we were going to run on Saturday on a track that they were very familiar with on Sunday, and they were really helpful to help guide at the driver's meeting and lend a helping hand. There you were then at the gas pump, and they really helped make the changes to the car that with spoilers and things like that and driving styles to help us do well on those speedways. I hope that made sense. But we came a short track, and they knew that. So now we're here at Atlanta, but they really helped us to
Well, I know the dash cars on a super speedway, they were really squirrely. The air moved them around because they were lightweight, and the wheelbase was shorter. I know I've been in some Cup cars, and they were more stable at Daytona than the dash car. And the dash cars were a handful, especially if you get several beside of you.
Oh, yeah. At Daytona, a car lead the pack. I was fortunate to lead, run second, third. Sometimes a car maybe about third back. The car would move not a lane, but slightly more than a car width. It would jump out and move back. A lot of downforce was removed from the car by laying the spoilers down, but remember the spoiler rules in all the series then weren't at the level they are now. The spoiler rules, and then mention, I ran the last race at Daytona without a restrictor plate, which is 1985. So you're right, the cars, they were a handful, and they were more dangerous, and there were more, I call them problems. I spoke about that yesterday at a high school career day, and just simply mentioned that the dangers in motor R series and other have been cleaned up quite a bit since then.
Are you doing any racing today? Now you mentioned vintage racing. Are you what are you doing today?
I still get to do some of that. I get to put my helmet back on the last couple of years. Most of those cars, sometimes people say, what is vintage racing and how do you do it? The vintage events that I'm involved in most often are museum type cars, and they don't want them running into each other. So they'll run timed events, let's say around a state park. It's a great event in Texas we ran, the Groesbeck Grand Prix. It was a Parkinson's fundraiser, so you can push the car to its limits, but you won't run into another car because you're running against the clock, if that makes sense.
Well, there's nothing like the smell of rubber and fuel, and you know that more than anyone. Once you smell it, it's like an addiction.
Yeah, maybe one of the worst types of addictions because they don't have a cure for it.
Race cars eat money, you know that.
Yeah, I've sure had a lot of fun and been fortunate to earn my living with competition automobiles as a crewman, mechanic, driver, tire changer, and now restoration. I am very, very fortunate. I say this often, to make a living making cars go fast at a competition level. There's probably countries around the world that wouldn't even believe you if you said that.
Yeah, really.
But here in America, and I'm a big flag waver, God bless America, and we get to do that.
We're here with Barry Owen, one of the legends of car building in mini-series, and especially the Dash Series, but you've built cars in mini-series. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Barry.
Well, I was in the Army for 7 years. I was a crew chief on a Huey helicopter. But the last 2 years in the Army, I was stationed in Virginia, and I started racing up in Manassas and Beltsville, Maryland. And I drove for a couple of years, figured out I was a lot better building cars than I was driving. So once I got out of the Army, then I started, actually the first cars I was building was the bodies for the Miller car for Bobby Allison, tied with Red's Kegel on that. But I worked for Childress when he was still driving, Hagen for a couple years with Labonte, Cliff Stewart with Jeff Bodine, his rookie season, Rusty's rookie season, a couple years at Curbs with Petty, and I was crew chief for Bouchard with the Valvoline car when Petty left. And then we started in the Dash Series with Larry Cottle, 87, 88. And I think we won 9 out of 15 the first year and 11 out of 15 the second. And NASCAR politely asked me to go somewhere else. So that's when we started the Busch team.
I asked you off camera how many races you thought you'd won, and you've lost count, you said you thought.
Yeah, we had a lot of situations where we'd build a brand new car and win the first race with it. We did it with Larry Cottle 2 years at Daytona. When Mike Wallace drove for me, he wanted to run an ARCA race. We'd never run an ARCA. We literally drug a chassis out of the weeds, put it together, and won Atlanta, the first ARCA race we ever ran. We built another ARCA car for Pocono and won both Poconos the first 2 races with it. And later, A.J. Foyt drove that car to Brickyard one year, 95.
Now, where was your main shop located here around Charlotte?
I was up in Lexington, about 40 miles north of here, just right on 85.
Now, you were with Petty during his 200th win, I understand.
Yeah, the 199th and the 200th.
Now, what are you doing these days? Are you still racing? What are you doing?
No, it got to where if you build cars different, they were illegal, took the fun out of it. And I could beat a lot of these big teams as long as I could build a car the way I wanted to build it. But once they took that away from me, then it was futile. So, the last cars I built was for Josh Williams, ARCA cars. And he won Milwaukee and Nashville a couple years ago with that. But now I'm just working on motorhomes, building engines for motorhomes.
Okay. But, of course, I guess they stay the speed limit. Or can they go over the speed limit?
No, these silly things will run 100 miles an hour if you want to. They'll run faster than you got the nerve to drive them.
So Barry Owen souping up a motorhome, that sounds pretty cool.
Well, I don't know that I'm souping them up. I'm just, I never really got into souping up street cars and all.
Well, now you've been with a lot of drivers over the years and a lot of wins. Is there any one that really stands out that was just a shocker?
Well, I had Clifford Allison. And, of course, Clifford got killed in Michigan. But Clifford was a ball to work with. And, we just hit the wrong situation there. But David Reagan, he lived with me when he was 16 years old and worked with us on the dash cars and all. He was a lot of fun to work with. Josh Williams. He was a lot of fun to work with. Worked with Parker Klingerman one race, road course for his first ARCA race. And we actually qualified outside pole and would have won the race if I'd had a pit crew.
Well, I know over the years there's always a struggle probably getting sponsorship, and racers need sponsors. How do you view the sport today versus back then?
It's all marketing now. And, used to the drivers would work their way up, into driving. Now they come out of a video world somewhere. And I think David Reagan, last I talked to him, that's his job, is to training people on the simulators, young drivers, and coaching young drivers for Roush.
I know some of the older drivers, just like Harry Gann, interviewed him. He would win a race and then go roof a house, or he would go dig a footing or something. And it's pretty interesting, such as yourself, just come from grassroots up and be able to build a machine that would go that fast and be competitive. And you were very competitive. I mean, your name comes up a lot.
That's surprising to me. I thought I'd done drifted off into Never Never Land.
No, your name is brought up a lot because you came up through the heyday when NASCAR was coming up, and it was a big deal just to light up a racetrack. Remember in the 90s, and the sport's come a long way, and you've been a big part of that. And we really appreciate your involvement in the Dash Series too.
The Dash Series is a family thing, and that's what's so much fun about it. And it's not so serious that that it takes the fun out of it. You get in a Busch Series, you can work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and feel like you hadn't done enough.
Well, the Dash Series, you could go from a short track to a medium track to a super speedway, which was pretty cool back in those days. You were able to drive and be involved in that many racetracks.
Yeah, and that's something that was fun about ARCA too, because ARCA you could run Daytona and Talladega, but you're running dirt tracks, you're running road courses, you're running little short half miles, and a little all of it.
Well, Barry, do you have anything else for the viewers? Any words of wisdom? Any secrets out there that you're taking to your grave?
Not that I know of. That's a secret I don't know about them.
Well, that concludes part 3 of the Goodies Dash Series videos. Stay tuned for part 4, and if you want to see more of our content, be sure to find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and our homepage, wisenewsnetwork.com. And, as always, if you have ideas for us, be sure to send them to newsdesk@wisenewsnetwork.com. This has been Mason Beam with the Wise News Network.